A warm welcome to the Health and Performance series powered by Hintsa Performance and Check-up Center Hirslanden in Zurich. In these series, we aim to help you to optimize your health and your performance. Because after all, performance is really a byproduct of your health and your well-being and how well you feel. So, on that note, let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Erat. I'm a medical doctor and the director of the Check-up Center in Hirslanden. And today I have two guests with me from Hintsa Performance and from the Check-up Center Hirslanden, Dr. Stefanie Helmbrecht and Tarja Mulari. Tarja, what is your connection with sleep regeneration? Can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Yes, nice to be here with you. I'm a former athlete, professional athlete. I started as an alpine skier, then finalized my career as a speed skier, resulting 3 World Cup victories, 3 world records, and 1 Olympic medal with a new record. So at that time, obviously, sleep and recovery was very important. After that, being a mother of 3 children, running a own company, so obviously it was a different kind of situation. You're kind of trying to manage at that time with sleep what I could get. Now I'm working as a coaching director at Hintsa Performance, and sleep and recovery is actually a big issue topic I'm talking about with my client and also recommending some tips and tricks for them. So that's my kind of way to look at it.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. I will just get to you in just a second, but out of curiosity, what kind of speeds do you reach?
So my top speed was 219.4 kilometers per hour.
On skis?
On skis, wow. Yes.
So you need to be recovered and rested.
Exactly. Being tired in that speed is dangerous, as it is for many athletes, as we have, the background also, or Hintsa has a background in Formula 1. Mm-hmm. So if you think about our drivers being tired on that speed with 19 others on that track, so it would be dramatic, it would be dangerous to be tired and not recovered well.
Of course. Stefanie.
Yes, thank you for your invitation. I'm happy to be here and being an expert from the Check-up Center of the Clinic Hirslanden. I work there as a doctor, and my background to sleep and recovery is actually that I am also a mother of a 4-year-old boy. But right after school, I began flying as a flight attendant and got introduced to jet lag and different ways of habits in eating, and so irregularities what can actually cause stress, and beginning then my medical career in night shift routines, working as a nurse and also developing in the expertise. I actually found it very interesting in managing how to perform, how to look for yourself, to have a well-balanced work-life habit, and that's maybe how I developed the passion in preventive medicine, where I'm working in right now. So thank you.
Great that you're here. Thank you. I mean, I remember when we were training to become doctors and junior doctors. Yes. At that time, still, we easily had 24-hour shifts. We had just grueling timetables.
Maybe longer than that, even.
Yeah, quite often, actually, longer than that. Luckily, they changed a little bit. Okay. So nowadays, I think the junior doctors are a little bit better off, and we're a bit more sensible about how we structure the schedules. But we have first-hand experience and what happens when you're totally sleep deprived, which is a bit sad, of course. Mm-hmm. But Tarja, you coach Formula 1 drivers, top athletes. You're a top athlete yourself. You were one of the world record holders and Olympic champions and so forth. So in terms of sleep and recovery, what happens to the body if you're not rested? If you don't get sleep, if you don't get recovery?
Maybe that's something for many athletes to actually realize, that the miracles happen when you sleep and when you recover. So when you push yourself, push mentally and push also physically, building muscle mass or using your cardiovascular system, so actually you need sleep to build up and go into the next level. We call it supercompensation. So when you use your resources, is it mentally or is it physically? So actually when we sleep, so we climb into the next level. And for athletes, that's sometimes difficult to do because, you know, we or they want to, or I wanted to also do best and do more and be faster or be stronger. But actually realizing that physiological thing which is happening inside us when we are just sleeping, so it's a miracle. So there's a lot of replenishment of cell tissues, and depending in which sleep cycle you are, is it the deep sleep or REM sleep, so different things are happening inside you. So I guess that's the first thing to kind of understand, that it's not just sleeping. You need sleep and recovery to perform better, whatever you do.
So when we're sleeping, one thing that happens is that we build up our energy storage in the brain as well. So the energy packages, the units that we need in the brain, are called ATP. And when they break down during the day, they are broken down to AMP. And the ratio of ATP to AMP is extremely important in our performance, how we feel, how energized we are. And in the evening, we have barely any ATP and a lot of AMP. So at night, it has to regenerate when we're sleeping. This is what happens, one of the processes that happens when we're sleeping. And if that doesn't happen, if we don't allow that, clearly, slowly, the energy levels in the brain also goes down. But what about the body? When you're talking and seeing your patients and they come and they're totally exhausted, they don't get sleep, they don't get regeneration, what are your concerns?
Well, of course, the muscles are heavily felt. They tell us sometimes they cannot move, they have pain, they have cramps. Of course, we try to analyze what is the major part in blood works, for example, but also we try, sometimes there are some joint problems, not on the basis where it is actually coming from, sometimes coming from the back, so nerve irritations can cause these problems, but also the processes in recovery is so important to the whole system.
And it's really interesting that you're mentioning the entire recovery and also pain. Obviously, pain is something that can inhibit us profoundly and inhibit performance profoundly, and also be very stressful, particularly in top athletes, but of course everyone in this world, but top athletes that need to perform and they are in pain and it's a very stressful situation. So what are the symptoms of short-term stress?
You could maybe categorize them into things. So it's the mind and it's the body.
Yes.
So you can have a mood shiftness, you can be very easily irritated, you don't have energy, your mood is changing, you can get anxiety, and you can be sad. You don't kind of see any light anymore. You can, and all kind of these things which are kind of impacting our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts. But then obviously physically also, you may get those symptoms. Stefanie was just mentioning pains, headaches, like totally out of nowhere pain. And obviously if you do physical exercising when you are stressed, so you don't get the benefit of the exercising. It's like, why do you do that? So that's maybe you to mention.
Yeah.
But also, if I'd like to add on the body system, sometimes it's also back pain or irritable bowel syndromes can cause stress, such as loss of appetite can be first indicators of stress signs. Changing digestion, so diarrhea and constipation, or cramps in the intestine system, and also cardiovascular problems such as elevated blood pressure or beginning of arteriosclerosis. So silent killers we are not aware of. So this is also important regularly to have a medical checkup, and that's what we offer in our checkup center.
That's really a good point, because if we have stress and we're sleep deprived and we don't allow ourselves to regenerate, it really impacts the entire body. Body and mind can't really be separated.
No.
They're one
Yes.
entity and interact very much with each other and flow into each other. And so we, for instance, we see a lot of also stomach ulcers, which are not caused by Helicobacter, not caused by chemicals, cigarette smoking, but really purely stress. That's a very well-known
Yes.
consequence of, for instance, stress and not enough regeneration, which can, of course, in the worst case, also be deadly.
Yes.
With gastrointestinal bleeding. And the heart, arrhythmia, also, as you mentioned, high blood pressure, which then can lead to coronary artery disease, of course, are, from our point of view, incredibly detrimental and not wished consequences of sleep deprivation and not enough regeneration and stress. And these are, of course, a little bit also the long-term consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah?
No, I was just thinking about also our hormones, you know.
Yes.
There is a lot of hormones circulating in our system when we are stressed. So epinephrine and cortisol ones, and this can affect us a very different way, but usually they are kind of keeping us alert. We kind of lose the bigger picture. We kind of, our sight is very laser focused, and our thinking is also very laser focused. So there is no kind of proactiveness, anything. We just react to the things, and that's obviously is causing something quite negative feelings or happenings, events in relationships, for example. So and about the weight, I mean, you know, some
That
yeah, maybe you can explain a little bit more.
Yes, I mean, that is such a good example also. When we used to be younger and we used to have these night shifts, when we were in the night shift kind of episode where we had to do that for maybe half a year, we all gained weight.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
Of course.
We all gained weight. So it was clear which of the poor junior doctors were in the night shift and which not, because on average they gained 5 to 10 kilograms.
Yes.
And the food habits also change, and what you crave for also changes. So if you're sleep deprived, I mean, there are studies on this, it's not only a personal experience, you start craving fat and sugar,
Yes.
so easy energy.
Yeah.
And this is quite a well documented phenomenon.
Yeah.
So also if you want to lose weight, you better make sure that you get enough rest and regeneration, and that you have a regular
that I see
cycle.
also a lot of my work. You know, our clients might have weight challenges, and then maybe not the root cause is not that what you eat, but when we go over the lifestyle and habits, so actually we see that the stress might be the inhibitant to lose weight, because sometimes it's just impossible when there is cortisol in our system.
Yeah.
So our
Correct.
body is kind of protecting us.
I would like to know how to measure stress in just a second, apart from the cortisol, because as we know, the cortisol is the stress hormone in our body. And when we are stressed in the beginning of the entire cycle, the cortisol levels really go up. So we have a 24-hour cycle of cortisol production, and it peaks between 3 and 8 in the morning. So at about 2, 3, it's fairly low, and then it shoots up. So that at 8 o'clock in the morning, that you're ready to get out of your cave and start chasing the lions. And so you have to have this cycle, otherwise you're not fit in the morning. But what happens, as you know, during stress, is that these levels aren't anymore within the normal range, but they really skyrocket.
Correct, yes.
And then long term, when we go into burnout, they just slump.
Yeah.
So we can measure that. I mean, that's a very objective, good way to measure stress. But there are other ways as well. Would you like to tell a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Of course, cortisol can be measured in blood works, for example, by the time of 8 a.m. in the morning should be measured. Cortisol is produced in the adrenals and is a good way, an indicator of stress, and to see if there's a balance or a disbalance between the mind and the body. Also, we have a tool, it's called the heart variability check, where we can measure stress. We can, of course, within the 24 hours measure the heart, but also all indicators of activity, recovery, sleep, and also snoring can be even detected. So it's a 24 hours ECG. You have a little handbag and the cables. You can wear shirts above. It's easy to have a simulation also in your daily lifetime, and it can reflect almost a year's time back. So if you had by measurement, for example, a worse or a bad night, it's no problem because it's reflecting at least the last 6 months. And normally we should say a regular heartbeat means health and balanced way of physiological and psychological way of life. But this is not correct in the heart rate variability. So a bigger gap between each heartbeat, big variety, helps us to feel healthy. So autonomous muscle system from our heart wishes to be trained, so being active, but also having the recovery, as it is an autonomous muscle system. And that's also what we try in our advices then for every individual to analyze where's the problem. So we have 3 columns in explaining and helping our people to optimize their lifestyles.
Yeah.
So great changes in variability is actually good.
Yes.
Do you see that also in terms of when we talk about performance? So we have some top athletes that come. We also, of course, have top managers or managers, board level, whatnot.
Yes.
And they all have different kinds of stresses, and they have to cope with it, and they have to regenerate, and they have to get sleep. How can you relate the variability to performance?
Yes, we can. For example, a classical manager has sometimes the wish to perform all day long, meaning 24 hours. So they wake up and they are there. You see that it's a big variability, much activity, but you cannot hold this pace. So after 90 minutes in general, everybody needs to have a break. So it is important either to have a little power nap or a little lowering stress moment, 3 minutes breathing time, or help yourself with a little yoga session or meditation. There are several things. But of course, within sports athletes, we sometimes see that they have big problems in getting the recovery then, because they are full of stress, full of energy, but then going to sleep, it is sometimes taking a bit of time. And if it is even longer than 30 minutes, so we have a kind of deficiency there, we could actually say that could be a kind of depression also beginning. So here it is very good to have this tool to understand what is going on. We can even measure pain within this measurement. It's a great tool.
It's a fantastic tool.
Yes.
It really is, to also get objective data.
Yeah,
That is
exactly.
really, really great.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, Ariana Huffington, for instance, she's a huge advocate of sleep. We should get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. There are some individual differences, obviously, but in general, that is really what we should get. When you're coaching athletes, businessmen, businesswomen, what do you tell them to do? How can they improve their sleep? What should they pay attention to? What is sleep? I mean, the sleep cycle. What is the sleep cycle?
Yeah, so usually how we start is actually try to educate people that what is sleep, as you as you mentioned, that we have those different sleep cycles, light, deep, REM. They do a different kind of things into our system. So deep sleep is more our body. So when we, and especially athletes, they need a lot of deep sleep because that's when their body is preparing. So they are kind of improving their performance. And then rapid eye movement sleep is more to our brain. So it's kind of taking away the toxic which we are producing during the day, and also reorganizing our memory and things like that. So we have those 90-minute circles during the night, let's say 5 to 7, depending how well we sleep. So if you are reducing your sleep amount, like for 6 hours, for example, so you are not giving enough time for your brain or body to recover. So we can't squeeze those in. We try to squeeze everything in nowadays, but not sleep, unfortunately.
You can't force it.
Yeah, you can't force it. So that's what you are then missing. I mean, you are as well prepared for the next day as were your sleep previous night. So that's maybe the first thing. Help them to understand what's happening inside them when they are sleeping. But then there is few tricks and tips. Maybe consistent bedtime is one, because we tend to kind of change that. And when you are working, especially from home nowadays, or hopefully not so much then becoming months, so we don't have the clear end for the workday and then kind of your time or family time or so. So consistent bedtime is maybe the key thing, and also the keeping that during the weekend so that we are not producing a so-called social jet lag.
Yes.
And then Monday morning hits you very badly. And then obviously the sleep hygiene, what kind of bed you have, is the room temperature good? Is there a dark environment in your bedroom?
But what about light exposure?
Yeah, and light exposure, like I think, recent studies or science says that actually we should see the morning light when we wake up. So, and also the sunset. Obviously, this is not possible always, but it's kind of it's organized and reinforces your circadian rhythm, which is the 24 hours rhythm what we all human beings have. So that's also one which is quite powerful, actually, what I have learned from my clients, to seeing the light in the morning. Yeah. And even though it's cloudy, so the looks what you're getting into your eyes is much more powerful than the artificial light. If you can't get, like in Finland, we maybe don't get the sunlight in November or January. Right. So then artificial light is also a good way to wake up and strengthen your circadian rhythm. So maybe those of you don't exercise too late in the evening, as you said, that it might mess up your heart rate variability and your sleep, and then obviously also caffeine and alcohol and things. So maybe those are the basic topics, how we kind of work.
I mean, light exposure and darkness, of course, is extremely important. When we work with athletes that need to move to another country, another time zone for some competitions, and we want to minimize the impact of jet lag and shorten the interval that they experience jet lag, we work a lot with light, with darkness, the timing, artificial light exposure, melatonin, of course, and the timing there is absolutely crucial. You have to really calculate and do it properly, otherwise you really mess up with the circadian cycle. But as you said before, sometimes nature doesn't allow that. So we really, such as of course in the Nordic countries, in the summer there's light all the time, and in the winter it's dark all the time. So we actually have to work with artificial means as well. such as artificial light and the melatonin. What is your experience with caffeine, alcohol, and melatonin?
Well, it is always individually seen. So caffeine can be pushing yourself, but also can be lowering your energy. And yeah, some people say, of course, it helps me to get out of bed or to start my day. But some people say, I'm absolutely not agreeing with caffeine. I need my green tea, so it's a different kind of caffeine. And this melatonin products need to be definitely checked in advance. Sometimes they are helpful for getting this jet lag process well balanced, but sometimes it can be the other way around. So we see actually different ways of individual reactions. So
it's always so individual. So that's what you have to take into consideration as well.
Exactly.
And there's also a genetic background that plays a role as well. So I know you're absolutely right. But if you get back, just to wrap it up, to the supercompensation, because this I think is extremely interesting. Most of us think the more we train, the better we get. And I also work with some triathletes, Ironman triathletes, and some of them, particularly in fairly early stages of their career, they tend to push and train and not putting enough emphasis on the recovery. Because if we train and we don't let the muscles recover from the training, there will be no supercompensation. And if there's no supercompensation, they will not get better. They might stay at the same level in the best case, and in the worst case, they just get worse and worse and worse. They train more, but they get worse, and in the end, of course, they also get ill, get a cold, get whatnot. Do you have experience, in your own life, in the beginning of your career, or with maybe young Formula One drivers? Did you notice that there might be a problem with regeneration and letting the body supercompensate? Have you seen that with your clients?
With athletes, yes. As I said, that the mind of the athlete is always to do more.
Yes.
And now when I say it, it's also with my clients. But it's really crucial to kind of also, from the trainer's point of view, to let young athletes especially to know that what's happening inside us. Why do we rest? Why do we recover? We need to kind of educate them on that actually we need to train wisely, and supercompensation is a smart and wise way to train. But it also comes to the corporate people in that sense that you barely think about that how hard your cognitive load has been, for example, during the week, if there is a traveling, if there is, a lot of presentations or client meetings or so, how much do you push yourself physically? Or should you kind of a little bit slow down on those weeks, not meaning that you are inactive, but what kind of training you do? Do you need to run 12 Ks as fast as you can, or can you just concentrate on walking, brisk walking, breathing, stretching, mobility exercises? So thinking about what kind of cognitive load and how much physical load you want to put together.
Yeah, I think that's an incredibly poignant comment, because regeneration doesn't mean do nothing, lay on the sofa.
Yeah,
That's not what we're saying.
No. Yeah,
it's really about changing the program and shifting and seeing what is applicable and what is beneficial and what not. And for instance, stretching, most of us tend to do way too little stretching. So in that period, you can easily do other types of exercises, such as also stretching. Yeah. So I'm working with Swiss ice hockey, and with the ice hockey players, also we of course work with nutrition. So after a very harsh match or game, of course they have recovery drinks, which is also important to refill protein and carbohydrate storage in the muscles. And that's of course also an
very
important part
Yeah.
of the recovery, which I'm sure you have also seen, seen with your clients.
Definitely, but also there is important what is the ingredients.
Exactly.
It has to be a balanced drink. To helping the compensation balance way of magnesium, calcium, but also vitamins are helpful, but shouldn't push you into other directions. And well-educated people tend to have more knowledge in supplements, and supplements do you good, but not best in the whole performance. So this is also a very important thing to watch and to look at.
Absolutely, and in the end, if your energy expenditure is lower than what you're taking in, such as a recovery drink every time you've done sports, then you just get you just gain weight, which of course is also not the goal of the exercise.
Not helping you to push you further.
Further in this direction. No, this has been a really interesting conversation. Thank you, both of you. It's been wonderful to have you here today. And thank you very much also to our sponsors that have enabled this series. For now, I wish you a great continuation. Warm greetings from the studios, Julius Baer Studios, here in Zurich, Switzerland. Thank you very much.